Okay, I'm here with World Championship trainer Glenn Rushton. Glenn, mate, always good to catch up. I want to get your thoughts on the fight last night, mate. Nikita Tszyu-Ben Mahoney. What did you make of the fight, and what's your, I guess, reaction to the draw?
Look, I really enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a great fight. It was a great battle, a terrific contest between two really good boxers. Okay, so both Ben, who I've watched Ben for a long time. He's done a lot of sparring here with some of my boys, so I know him very, very well. And obviously, we know Nikita quite well. Ben Horn fought Nikita, as you know. So, and I've watched Nikita for a long time since he was, a kid in the amateur boxing. So certainly know them both well. I enjoyed the fight a lot. My initial take on the fight, I thought, because I was there also when Ben fought Dan Hill at his last fight on that same card with Surly. And I did think that night he didn't perform that well. But last night I personally think that was the best fight Ben Mahoney's had. Okay, I think considering the quality of the opposition, kudos to Ben and Josh. I think he fought above what I expected. Okay, because I wasn't that happy the night when he fought Dan Hill. I thought, gee, you didn't look your best tonight, Ben. But last night, I think he fought right up to his ability. I thought Nikita underperformed what I expected. Okay, so I think Nikita didn't. But what did I think about the outcome? Look, before the decision, I thought Nikita would get it. Okay, I did. I thought he had just edged it in my humble opinion. Now, the disclaimer to that is I wasn't judging it. I was watching it. Okay, and it's a completely different perspective. And even as Danny Green said after, look, I need to go home and watch it again. And I wish I'd have had time today to watch it back, but I haven't had the time. But I'd love to watch it back and actually judge it. And I may change my mind. But my belief last night, waiting for the decision, I was sitting there watching it, and I was saying, look, I think the way the decision is going to go is Nikita will get it. It could be a majority decision, I said. It could be split. I personally think he'll get it by 1 or 2 points, I said. But I think Nikita's, and the reason I say that is my opinion in the fight was that Ben didn't look to me in the early rounds at all like he was trying to win the fight. It looked like he was trying to survive. And look, that's okay because we know how explosive Nikita can be. And it looked like, obviously Nikita was doing the hunting, he was chasing him down. So when you got really close rounds and you go and look, it's hard to split them on the points or who did the most damage. Then you go, look, who was the aggressor, who had the ring generalship, who was the hungrier boxer there. And, you'd have to say Nikita because he's the aggressor all the way. So, however, what Ben was doing really well is every time Nikita come near him, he was countering, and he was countering really well. And when Nikita got close, to his credit, Ben was lifting his work rate, which made it harder for Nikita. And my feelings with Nikita last night, everyone, including me, has said that he takes a lot of risks. He needs to improve his defense a little bit. He needs to know that when he gets to the top with guys like Fundora and Ennis and Kelly and Ortiz Jr., when you're fighting these guys, you need to have that really balanced fight plan. You've got to balance attack and defense beautifully. Where I thought Nikita went wrong last night, and it reminds me a little bit years ago, you'd see these UFC fighters, they've got great hands. So then they're trying to get their legs right. And then, then their hands suffer. And then they try to get their grappling skills. And then they can't put it all together. And I thought last night, there were times I thought Nikita should have really cut loose. And we all know he's got the pop. We know he's got that explosive power. And that's what I thought. In the end, that explosive power, when he lands, it's just going to be devastating. But he couldn't quite land. And when I thought he should have lengthened and really went for it, he didn't. He'd land and then he wouldn't really have a crack. And that was a little disappointing because there was exchanges there where I thought, Nikita, if you want this, you got to really go now. You've got to really let him go, and you got to move and punch. And it didn't quite happen. So I think, look, it was throwing him off that every time he attacked, he was getting countered in close. Ben was either clinching or he was, throwing high volume. So I think it messed with Nikita's game plan. But, my advice would be to Nikita is let's bring the pop back. Yeah, by all means, your head was moving better and your defense was better, but probably by working on your defense, your attack has suffered a little bit. And we don't want to lose that explosiveness that's made you such a dangerous fighter as that pop that you've got. So that sort of Jai was how I was seeing the fight unfold.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. How did you think Nikita, I guess, navigated the first time in 12 rounds? Do you think that played a factor in his sort of pacing throughout the fight?
I think it did a little bit. I think he didn't quite have that pop when he needed it. I think, just balancing the ability to blend speed and power. I think he missed that a little bit. Sometimes you've got to throw the speed to create the openings, and then you've got to bludgeon with that explosive power that he's got. And I think maybe it did just take a little bit of an edge off him. But you've only got it. We've heard all the rhetoric since about, Nikita saying he thought he lost. Look, don't read anything into that. I think if Nikita watches the fight back, he might change his mind a little bit on that. So it's set in the heat of the moment. And to his credit, he was very honest and he was just saying how he felt. So you can't take anything against him on that. The same thing with Ben saying he thought he won. Ben will probably go back. But you listen to what's being said in the corner by Josh to Ben, and you can see that Josh was thinking it was close. He even said to him at the end, you need the fight round of your life, and he's saying things to him like doing it for your kids and this, you don't say that if you don't think this is a really close fight, and he knew it was close. We all knew it was close. There's no doubt. So I don't think, look, I think at the positives and go, you got a great fight. Both fighters are, come out of there undefeated. They're both still on track. There's a lot of positives out of there. So, yeah, I wouldn't be as disappointed as I think some people are, but, I still think it was a great fight and they learned a lot from that fight.
What about, Glenn, the head clash there in the cut, and also just touch back on Nikita saying the comments straight after the fight? I mean, you've been around combat sports for how long? Half a century?
More than that. Yeah.
Or more. Is it, I guess, against the fighter code to sort of say that? I mean, how did you see that?
Look, it's a tough one. You're trying to be honest and real, and people always want to hear comments from the boxers, and of course they deserve that. They're fans, they pay good money, they want to hear the boxer talk, and but yeah, sometimes look, it is better to just bite your lip and just think, look, I need to go back. Let me process this. In other words, I should probably process this and not say anything too much. And he'll probably learn from that, and he'll go back and talk to his team and say, look, I need to be careful about what comments I make directly after the fight, because, look, he led the fight all the way. What I would like to have seen from Ben, if Ben really wanted that, I reckon once he weathered the storm in the first half a dozen rounds, he should have started pressing more the fight. If he really wanted to win this fight and not just get through the fight, he should have started pressing a little earlier. And I think Josh was wanting him to press a little earlier, but he just still kept mainly, look, it was working for him, counter punching and clinching and so forth, and also upping the work rate in the tight engagements. But look, he can't be disappointed. Honestly, I don't think he could be disappointed with a draw. And Nikita could probably say, yeah, look, I should have really got. There was a few times in that fight, and there was times I've gone, look, you got to go, and he just didn't quite go. So lessons learned from both boxers. Kudos to both of them. They put on an incredible fight, and I think they both should be, certainly pleased that they come away without a loss on their record.
Just on Nikita, there were talks of, perhaps sending him overseas or getting guys like Tony Harrison or Keith Thurman down here. Was the result last night, does that set Nikita back at all? How do you see that?
Look, I think Nikita's been rushed a little bit. He only had 30-odd amateur fights. He was a long time out of the sport. He come in, he went in the deep end pretty quick. He's had a reputation to live up to, a family name, that's just synonymous with boxing. There was a lot of pressure. I personally feel in hindsight he could have been groomed a little slower, but, with a name like Tszyu, it's very hard to do that. So, it is what it is. I would be saying, if I was Nikita, don't go over to America. Bring them. I think what you said before, Jai, was a good move. Bring some of the Americans out here. Give him a crack at them at his hometown. This was Ben's hometown on the Gold Coast. Nikita had to come up. So I'd be saying, bring them out here. Build your brand here, Nikita. You've got a good brand here. The name is strong. And I'd be saying, bring them out here. Like, why do we have to keep going to America all the time? Bring the guys out here and keep building your brand in Australia. And by the time you are world champion, you'll be able to do what Anthony Mundine did. He just brought them out here, and still getting massive crowds and doing huge pay-per-view numbers. So, yeah, why not do it that way? But look, it's up to him at the end of the day.
Just last one on Nikita. Looking at him stylistically, what changes do you see he needs to make if he is to, I guess, go up to that next level and, challenge for those titles?
Look, there's 4 good boys there that we just mentioned there before. They're all good boys, and they're different boys. So you've got to look at the skills that Josh Kelly brings, that Fundora brings, Ennis brings, and Ortiz Jr. So you got to, although I believe he might be going to go up the middleweight. So, it's one of these things that he needs to look at those fighters. He's got to work out what opponents are fairly close to them, but not quite as good, but very close stylistically to them. If he prepared, that's what I would be doing. And then try and bring those fighters here to these shores. I believe he's still got to bring the pop back. He's got to get his endurance, probably, as you mentioned, first time over 12 rounds. It's a little bit of a learning curve there. He's got to blend his attack and defense a little bit better than he's doing at the moment. It was encouraging to see the defense has improved, but I think the attack suffered a little. And if he can get that right and just get that break him down and put him away mentality, and he's certainly capable of doing that, I think he could have attacked a little bit more from longer range too. He's actually quite effective, Nikita, from long range, but I didn't feel he used it as well as he could have last night. Could have broken him down a little bit more from long range and then really exploded, but didn't quite see that transitioning through the gears. Didn't quite happen. I don't feel like I felt Nikita was in top gear last night. At no point in that fight did I really see Nikita in top gear. And that was a little disappointing and something I think he can work on. Naturally, we assume he had a great camp, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he's got an injury. Who knows? Yeah, we don't know some of those things, but that would be my take on it anyway, Jai.
There you go. Mate, 2 more for you. Jai Opetaia, big fight coming up on the Ryan Garcia card there in Las Vegas against Noel McKaylee. And have you sort of cast your mind onto that fight? What do you make of that fight? And I guess, how do you see that one play now?
Well, I haven't really had a real close sort of analysis of the fight. I've got a massive amount of respect for Jai, and I believe Jai can beat anyone in his division. If he prepares well, he's got a great set of skills. Terrific boxing skills, great power, and incredibly tough. So he's got the skills to beat anyone. He's just got to, if he gets a good camp in, there's no reason whatsoever that he can't win it. No reason at all. I've always expected Jai to be a unified champion. So, I don't, there's nothing that has changed my opinion on that.
And last one for you. There is some talk about Tszyu potentially fighting someone like Erislandy Lara, perhaps later in the year. Seeing that Spence fight with Tszyu, do you think he is ready to challenge for a belt, Glenn? Or if you had the reins of Tszyu, would you be sort of urging 1 or 2 more fights with his new team with Jeff to sort of get things sort of down pat?
Look, I'd like to at least see 1 more fight from Tim. I'd like to see 1 more and just see if he can. To me, this was as he said, this is the Phoenix rising. Okay, last time. And I just think, yes, he rose. Did he rise enough to take on Lara? In my opinion, not quite. And in that case, I'd say, look, let's not plan 2. Let's do 1 more and just see and reevaluate after that. because, as you get older, you don't want to waste time. Every preparation takes a fair bit out of you. So you've got to go, look, let's do one more camp, get the right opponent, someone that's got good boxing skills, like Lara, maybe a Cuban or someone, but you've got to pick the right guy that's got very good boxing skills. As I'd get someone, again, similar to Lara, bring him down here to Tim and just say, you do a really good job on him, then let's go for it. Let's go. You're only going to get older, so let's go for Lara in the next fight. But, that would all be subject to how he performs in that one. But pick the right opponent, pick him carefully, and if he comes through that one, I think he's earned the right then to have a crack at Lara.
Very well said, mate, and always appreciate your time, Glenn. You're an encyclopedia of boxing knowledge, mate, so always good to have you on.
No, lovely chatting again, Jai, and it's good to see Australian boxing in such a great place. And there's some other great fights there last night as well. So, we're in a really good place at the moment. And, Australia, I think we've just got to all just go, hey, great fight, two fantastic Australian boxers here, and let's be happy for both of them. Hopefully they both learn a lot, move on from and keep doing what Australians are doing well at the moment and just establishing themselves on the world stage as a real force in boxing. So, yeah, terrific. Lovely chatting to you, Jai. We'll talk again.
Appreciate it, mate.
Take care.